Hello everyone, thank you for joining today's webinar. The topic of today's webinar is the easy way to build a data-driven franchise. And specifically, we're going to talk about how to grow and increase the profitability of your franchise with a data warehouse. My name is Nathan McMurtrey. I am the CEO at a company called Xerva. We offer a done-for-you data warehouse, which is a fully managed data warehouse for our clients. We've been doing this for about 5 years and having a lot of success at it. Before that, I was a business intelligence consultant for about 10 years. And so as a consultant, I really got a good appetite for solving business problems with data and saw a lot of great companies using data to their advantage and exploiting some really cool opportunities. And so love the data and data warehousing world. Just the ex-accountant on here, I was graduated in accounting and kind of come at data and analytics from an accountant finance perspective a lot of the time. So that's me. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for joining. Who this webinar is for today is anyone involved in running a franchise or multi-unit business who knows there's big opportunities hiding in their data. We have seen a lot of people using their data to their advantage, and it's funny to see data at the start of a project where data is really their Achilles heel of a company. Some people feel like there's a glass ceiling that they can't grow because their data is preventing them from growing. And it's so cool to take people through that journey and see them start to use data to their advantage. And we're going to talk about a lot of different ideas along that topic today. What you'll learn is how to become a data-driven franchise, how to get away from manual data prep, how to be cost-effective in using your BI tools, how to get a holistic view of your franchise, how to conduct customer analysis for your franchisees, how to improve franchisee performance with benchmarking, and finally, how to identify profit-boosting KPIs for your franchise. So what we're offering after the webinar is a free 45-minute franchise consultation. So anybody who would like to have more of a one-on-one conversation about your specific needs, we know that this is kind of just a blanket webinar, but we love to meet with people. So we'd be happy to talk to you. So does this sound like you? Is data spread across all of your franchisees, with data coming from dozens or even hundreds of different individual businesses, and then also having multiple systems, marketing, operations, finance, different systems that have that data. Are you only getting your quarterly or annual updates of sales figures and other key metrics? So very, very shallow number of metrics from your franchisees. Is your franchisees view you requesting data as an intrusion or a pushback, which often cause compliance problems with the latency of when people are supposed to be reporting their data or their sales? Does it take hours to manually combine, clean, and verify your data? We often talk about how many hours it takes people to work with data is vastly underestimated for most companies. If even one franchisee doesn't report their data, does it feel like everything stops because you don't have a complete picture? And then lastly, is it difficult to show the ongoing value of your franchise to your franchisee without having the data and analytics to support what you're trying to coach them on? So if you don't know where to start with BI, it's a frustrating feeling. We've been there. The good news is it really doesn't have to be this way. With the technology and the services that exist today, there is a much better way to go about it. You can automate all of the compliance and royalty calculations that you need to do. You can centralize all of your franchise data. So marketing, operations, finance, accounting, all of that can be centralized in one location. Your performance consultants can give data-driven advice. They can go to a higher level of value to your franchisees as they meet and talk with them. Using franchisees to benchmark against each other is also a really nice thing that most industries don't have, frankly, and being able to compare one franchise to another franchise and see the ones that are doing well and the ones that are doing poorly, and being able to benchmark against each other is valuable for the whole group. Another thing that's really valuable is customer analysis, being able to segment, meaning divide up your customers into categories and then enrich that data with third-party data. If you want to know more about who your customer is, where they live, how much they make, are they single, married, all of that enrichment is available today to really help you understand who your customer is. And then profiling them is also part of that as well. You can also get real-time feedback. You can get that real-time feedback from every level. So the customer, the franchisee, and the franchisee employee, being able to give that real-time feedback to you, the franchisor, is extremely important. And we've seen really great results with that. And then lastly, just increasing the lifetime value of a customer, looking for upsell opportunities, ways to increase and extend the life of a customer can add really, really meaningful amounts to your bottom line. So it all really starts with 5 shifts, and these are the 5 topics that we're going to talk about today. And each shift is important in kind of getting to that data-driven franchise. The first one we're going to talk about is empowering franchisees with data-driven advice. The second one is automating data aggregation versus manual data prep. The third one is we'll talk about some KPIs for franchises and how to identify those franchise KPIs. Then we'll talk about uncovering opportunities through analysis and a demo there of how to analyze of what a data warehouse can do to help you do analysis. And then lastly, we'll talk about the done for you route versus the do it yourself route. And so the first topic is empowering your franchisees with data-driven advice. The thing that we've seen is your franchisees and franchisors are sometimes just flying blind, and they're looking at things really through the rear view mirror when they're talking to franchises. And so they get on the phone and they have a review, have you been trained, have you gone to all of the different programs that the franchise offers. But what is sometimes missing is the higher conversation and the more meaningful conversation about what do the numbers of your franchise look like. So one of the analogies we like to use is this a little bit of a question. The question is, if a bat and a ball cost $1.10 together, the bat costs $1 more than the ball, how much does the ball cost? If you're like most people, you will say 10 cents, which is actually incorrect. The right answer is 5 cents. And the ball costs 5 cents, the bat costs $1.05. This was a survey that a man called Daniel Kahneman from the Wall Street Journal did at some different universities, and almost everybody guessed the 10-cent answer, which was wrong. And I really like the quote that they had in that article. And the quote said, "When people face an uncertain situation, they don't carefully evaluate the information or look up relevant statistics. Instead, their decisions depend on mental shortcuts, which often lead them to making foolish decisions. The shortcuts aren't a faster way of doing the math, they're a way of skipping the math altogether." And that's what we're trying to talk about with data, is we're really talking about stopping and slowing down and doing the math together. Don't skip, especially when you're in the advice giving chair where your franchisee is looking at you for help on running their business. Being able to sit down and say, these are the numbers and these are the key indicators that your business should be looking at are extremely valuable. One example is one of our clients is the Maids International. And when we first engaged with the Maids International, a lot of these calls that the performance consultants were having with their franchises were really around training and really around how are things going. You tell me how things are going. And it took a long time for them to prepare all of the Excel files and get their data together and it took so much time that often they wouldn't have all of those numbers at their fingertips in those calls. Well, fast forward, now that they have a data warehouse and they have some awesome tools at their fingertips, the advice they're giving their franchisees is really amazing advice. Being able to say, this is what your region looks like right now, and these are the things that the people who are having success are doing, and these are the things that those who are not having success are doing, and if you want to act more like the successful group, you should look at this data. It really has helped the Maids International become a better company using that data. So the next shift is automating data aggregations and versus just doing manual data prep. So this is probably the number one problem we hear at franchises right now, is that there is a enormous amount of time being spent to highly tedious, time-consuming processes with data. Franchisee is sending an Excel file to franchisor. If there's 300 locations, they're all sending their own Excel file to the franchisor. There's somebody at the franchisor who's trying to roll all of that data up together. And really what it ends up creating is kind of a nightmare. A nightmare through accuracy, as well as a nightmare through the amount of time that it's taking. The answer is an analogy we like to use. You know, if you imagine a restaurant, restaurants are generally divided into three areas. The first area is the pantry, where the food is brought in raw form. The second area is the kitchen, where you take the food and you bring it into a kitchen. You have a master chef who is combining the different raw materials, raw foods, and creating with a recipe, creating the final product. And only after that work in the kitchen is done do you actually take the food out to the dining area, where it's presented to the people who are ultimately going to consume it. Well, you probably guessed that, you know, instead of food, we're talking about data today. And it works in a very similar fashion, where data is brought in raw format to a data lake. And data lakes are great for centralizing all of your data. They're great for getting all of that load of the data off of your production systems. And it's great for being able to handle any kind of data in raw form. I mentioned earlier that I'm an accountant by trade, and data lakes are a great place to keep raw data that hasn't been transformed in case of audits, or in case of anybody needing to go back and say, what does the data look like before the next section, which was the data warehouse, happened to it. When the data gets put into a data warehouse, now we're talking about cleaning the data. We're applying business logic to the data. We're combining it from multiple sources into one version of the truth. And by the time the data warehouse is done, your data should be accurate, easily accessible, and it should be current and a relevant amount of time latency to be meaningful to your users. And only then do you start doing the dining room or the reporting and analytics on top of that data warehouse. And, you know, if you get these three steps right, it really makes a great transformation for your business, where the people who are doing reporting aren't trying to go straight into the pantry and using raw data to create reports, and then you get inconsistent and inaccurate reports. You make those three separate stages to your data, and you'll find that you get a lot of the things that happen to be a pain for companies can be automated, can be accurate. This isn't meant to be a terribly technical demonstration, but I wanted to show what that looks like from more of a technical side. And so you've got your data sources on the left, and as you pull them through and extract them out of those data sources, so your accounting system, your marketing systems, and your operation systems are all brought into that, extracted into that data lake. The data lake then sits underneath the data warehouse, and it also sits underneath or facilitates the machine learning or advanced analytics that people might want to do on just raw data. The data warehouse is all about one version of the truth, making all of the data come into one perspective for your business users and your report writers to then feed off of. And then you push everything out to the semantic layer, which kind of sits on top of everything. And that semantic layer, there's a lot of great visualization tools. Tableau is great, Power BI is great, and there's a handful of other ones that are great. Excel is great. And being able to support your whole end-to-end system with this layout has really made a big difference for a lot of people. So to escape that Excel hell, supporting your spreadsheets with a data warehouse, you really want to take that data warehouse is going to create that single source of truth. All your business logic is defined in one location. The data extraction and cleaning can be automated. It scales with your franchise as it grows into new parts of the business and new business domains. And it's compatible with all of your sources, all of your visualization tools. Great example of this is Moxie Pest Control. Moxie Pest Control is a company that has many locations throughout the United States, and being able to put in a data warehouse, we actually came in and put a data warehouse in for Moxie Pest Control, and they were spending over 100 hours a week when we came in, and we were able to come in, automate all of that work using a data warehouse, and they, just from the time savings alone, easily paid for the cost of the data warehouse, not to mention all of the insight that they were able to get in helping them run a better business. And so it really is significant in some businesses where people are doing a lot of things in spreadsheets. That automating of data can really save a lot of headache and be a real cost saver. The third shift I wanted to talk about was essential KPIs for franchisors and franchisees. KPI, first of all, stands for Key Performance Indicator, and being able to identify the most meaningful key performance indicators is essential for a business. And that doesn't matter if you're a franchisee or franchisor. Any business should know their numbers and know which numbers are the most meaningful. As you go through the types of numbers, we like to divide companies up into 4 categories: their employees, their operations, their customers, and their financial perspectives. And with all of those perspectives, usually when people engage with us at first, they're really thinking about their financial perspectives. They're thinking about what's my margins, what's my profit margins, and how many customers came into my store. What we try to do is take them through an exercise of identifying more leading type indicators. Things: are their employees trained? Are they courteous to their, are they accomplishing what they're supposed to be accomplishing as an employee? Going through key operation metrics, how many different activities are happening, and measuring those activities in the operations group for success, and then measuring the customer's specific KPIs. And you can kind of see you get more leading as you get out to one side, and then you get more lagging as you get out to the other side. One example that I've really liked is that there's a book called Worst to First, and the author talks about Continental Airlines between 1994 and 1997. They had filed for bankruptcy twice in the previous decade, and so it was kind of a dire time for the company. And the story goes that when their CEO came in, they were really identifying a lot of the lagging indicators that the company was watching. Things like efficiency. So how many people are we putting on a plane? What's the cost per person? And they were watching a lot of the, did we make money on the flight? And he came in and he said, we want to identify 3 metrics. And they were 3 leading metrics. And he said, we're going to watch on time arrivals, we're going to look at lost luggage, and we're going to look at customer complaints. And identifying those 3 metrics made a huge difference in Continental Airlines and kind of turned them around. I really enjoyed this quote from that, which it says, what makes the 3 indicators just listed leading is that they measure the success the same way the customer does. And that is critical, because ultimately the success of any business is a result of loyal customers who return. None of the 3 indicators would show up on a financial statement, but as the airlines have learned over the years, by testing the theory, they have a predictive correlation with profits. I love that story, and that's something that we've tried to do at Xerva with all of our companies, all of our clients, being able to meet with them and say, let's not talk about how you measure success. Let's talk about how your customer measures success, because that's the most leading indicator. The profits and all of that, yes, they're important to measure, but at first, your customer success is the most important thing to measure. So the next one is uncovering opportunities through analysis, and this is where I'm going to flip over to a little bit of a demo. What we've seen is there's really good opportunities for companies when the data warehouse is done right. And I'm going to show a demo. If you can just give me a minute here, I'm going to flip over to just Excel. This is Excel with what's called an OLAP cube underneath, and it's not important to understand the technology as much as it's important to understand what can be done with the technology. I have a pivot table lined up here in Excel, and you can see as I click over here, I have a lot of data, different data sets that I can go into for this company to analyze. If I wanted to analyze the financial reporting, I can click there, and then here I show all of the different pieces. This measure, this symbol right here is all of the things that we can add up. So if we want to look at amounts, I can click on that, and then if we want to click those amounts by a hierarchy, a date hierarchy, you can see I'm just dragging and dropping. All of that data is loaded at my fingertips. And so now if I want to come in and say, let's look at our different accounts, let me just pivot this a little bit better. So let's just do some net income analysis. So I'm just going to keep net income. When I expand this out, I can go operating profit and expenses. I can drill in, drill down, and see all of that data. It's already just right there at my fingertips. So now I just did a little bit of financial analysis, but I can also switch in the same, I'm still in the same area, in the same Excel file, but now I can switch and say, well, let's actually analyze our sales orders. So how many orders do we have? Let's click on the count. This one's really good for franchises where you can look at your different territories. You can expand out and see those territories. So, North America, we can look at Canada versus the US. The United States has different, 5 different territories. We can see the Northwest is our #1 leading territory. If we want, we can then say, okay, well, let's analyze the Northwest. And I'm going to say keep. Let me actually bring in a date. Let's bring in a date just so it gives it a little bit more flavor. So let's just look at 2013, where the bulk of our orders came in. So I'm looking at the Northwest for 2013, those sales. If I want to analyze it by half year or by quarter or by date, I can drill down. I'm going to just move this up into the filters. So now let's go ahead and analyze. I'm going to keep those and move those to the background. But what were the products that were sold? Well, it looks like we've sold, accessories and bikes. We can drill down in the different types of bikes that were sold. Everything is just right at my fingertips. If I want to see anything that has been loaded into this cube, I can go and analyze. And being able to very quickly, you can see I don't know any code here. I'm not writing any code. I've got everything just at my fingertips, and I've been able to browse around my data and do analysis. And that's really the part that's key here, is that you've got smart people who maybe aren't technical are able to drill down and understand the data better. So the last shift I wanted to talk about is the done-for-you data warehouses versus doing it yourself. For a lot of people who have kind of gone it their own way and tried to do it, we've seen there's a statistic that 80% of data warehouses have failed. And the reason that is because they are very big and they take a lot of expertise to put together. There's expensive hardware and software. Staffing a team is very difficult. There's a lot of processes that need to be set up to be automated, and it creates an enormous amount of technical debt on a business. And so you see today, big companies, the Walmarts of the world have very large data warehouse teams, but a lot of other organizations have very difficult time having success putting together the full data warehouse. So going back to the restaurant analogy, this is what we have done at Xerva, is we've said, wouldn't it be nice if we had a fully managed data warehouse where we can come in, take care of all of that for our clients so they don't have to, and then they can just connect their reports and sit their reports on top of a fully managed environment. And what that ends up doing is it creates this hassle-free environment where all of the data from all of the different franchises comes into one database, and it is extremely cost effective versus going it yourself. the time to value is faster than staffing a team and picking all of your own hardware and software. And then lastly, the risk of the project is so much lower. Our team of experts have had hundreds of successful projects now, versus kind of hiring your own team and staffing your own team. You're only as good as the person you're hiring, and you may or may not, maybe they've gone through one or two data warehouses in their time, if that. And so we've tried to take a lot of the risk and hassle out of building a data warehouse, and it's been a really successful for our clients. One client is now CFO, where they had many locations of outsourced CFOs that were doing kind of going back to the manual data prep, sending in their data, and they decided that they were going to go with Xerva to help them build their done-for-you data warehouse. And what that's done for them has been pretty significant in the manual data prep savings, but they didn't have to go and staff a team. They're not an IT organization. They just want the benefits of the data warehouse. They don't necessarily want the pain of building it. And so it's been a great relationship between the two companies. We're seen as, their trusted advisors. We help them through, building reports and dashboards on their data warehouse, as well as just taking care of all of that manual data prep for them. So this brings us to the end of the webinar. We've covered quite a bit during the webinar. We've covered, how to automate your manual data prep. We've covered how to identify your key performance indicators. We've done an OLAP demo in Excel to show you how to analyze your data and some of the benefits of having a data warehouse at your fingertips. If you would like to have a conversation, just a one-on-one conversation, more about the needs of your company, you're looking for advice, we do this as kind of a way to give back. We hear a lot of data problems that people are having, and often are able to just help people out and move them along their way. We're very invested in just helping people with their data, because there are really great tools out there and really great options to solve your data problems and to use your data better to help run your company. So if you'd like to talk with us, go to xerva.com/consultation to set up a 45-minute session. We'd be happy to talk with you, and appreciate you joining me today. Thank you.